All right, everyone. Welcome back in another episode of Bleav in Vikings for today, Monday, November 4th. And I'm your host, Mike Wobschall. Of course, my co-host, my partner, Bryant McKinnie, is here as well. It's a BMac Monday. We're ready to react to the Vikings' 21-13 win over the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday Night Football and want to dive in specifically on one player's performance that I think Bryant will have some insight into. So all of that coming up on today's episode of Bleav in Vikings. But first, Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, NHL to entertainment and political props. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. BMac, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. I saw your name on the broadcast last night during the Vikings-Colts game.
Really?
I did. 3 times since the year 2000 has a left tackle been traded in the middle of a week and then started the game for his new team the following Sunday. Dwayne Brown did it in 2017. Cam Robinson did it just last night. And then you did it. I think you were 2013, I Bleav it was.
2013.
Yeah. So 2013, you have a midseason trade from Baltimore to Miami. And the week you were traded, you started for Miami. We just saw Cam Robinson do that for the Vikings, going from the Jaguars to the Vikings. Starts at left tackle on Sunday night against the Colts. So tell us about that, your experience doing that for the Dolphins.
What year is Cam?
What I'm sorry, what's that?
What year is Cam?
Cam, I'm going to look it up and tell you exactly. I'm guessing he's in his 5th year. Cam Robinson was drafted in the year 2017. So 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. He's in his 8th year.
Okay, yeah. So I feel like somebody who's been around long enough, like 8th year, like you've been around enough. So a lot of things that you have learned throughout the years are similar in other programs, just have different terminology. And that's what you really have to do is when you get there is, okay, basically this means this if I was somewhere, like, you know what I mean? If I came from Baltimore down to Miami, it's like, oh, it's basically this. Like you have to kind of just in your mind just translate over the terminology because the blocking schemes are probably similar. And then for a left tackle, 85% of the time you're blocking the defensive end. So just knowing the terminology and then really being a good communicator with the guard next to you and who should be able to over communicate, especially that first week. So it makes you very for sure of like what's going on. That helps out a lot too. And I had, when I first got to the Dolphins for that first week, I had Richie Incognito next to me, who was a veteran and had been there for a couple of years. So having him helped me out a lot for that first game because when the second game came, he was going because of the bullying situation. So by then, it's like I had more time to get in my playbook.
Okay. So I guess we get, we hear play calls in the NFL, right? And they can get like really long and confusing to someone who didn't play football beyond maybe like high school. But I think what you're kind of getting at is all of that matters to most of the players. But at the end of the day, when you guys get up to the line of scrimmage as an offensive line plus the quarterback, you guys kind of have your own like sub language for what you're going to be doing on that play, right? And that's kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah, pretty much. The center kind of calls out everything for the line and the quarterback. So once you hear what the center calls out, it helps me out. And then now, after the center makes his calls, the guard and I are going to communicate on what it is we're doing if we're working together. You can give dummy calls and all type of things to make people think we're working together, but yeah, it's a whole lot of different communications up there. And that's why sometimes with plays, there's you can tell there's an MA, a mistake, a missed assignment. It's called on plays. I'm like, they didn't communicate. Somebody wasn't communicating, and therefore that's what happened.
Yeah. How about stuff like you would always have code words for like, hurry up, we're going to spike the ball. We're going to clock it. Or hurry up, let's run this play really fast before they can challenge it. Or, hey, this play is going to be a quarterback sneak. You would have code words for that type of stuff too. So you kind of got to learn those really quickly, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah, you learn code words, but also that help knowing the situation helps you out a lot too. So yeah, but I feel like he came in there and did a great job for, having a few days of practice and just getting in a rhythm. And then, I'm just pretty sure there was a lot of communication between him and the guard, I will hope.
Yeah. And I guess how about so the Colts run a 4-3 defense instead of a 3-4. Does that help or hurt at all? Does it make it easier or
I
more
personally used
basic?
to like a 4-3 because I feel like during my era, a lot more teams ran 4-3, so I was more comfortable with that. The 3-4 teams were always teams like Pittsburgh, things like that, where it was like it wasn't as common. So the scheme would be different and the assignments would be different. But the 4-3 was like everybody pretty much ran it for the most part. So that's what I seen the most. So for me, that was easier to figure out.
Yeah. So spinning it forward for the Vikings, when would you guess that Cam would be like 100%, like Kevin O'Connell and the play caller? They don't have to like not baby him along, but they don't have to like compensate for him. When do you think he's like totally good to go? Doesn't need any help at all? A couple games?
Yeah, I would say probably by third game.
Yeah, give him 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, so like this next game, he's still going to grow, and they're going to add more plays into. I feel like they might have scaled back, a lot of the responsibility that he'll have too, just to give him a chance. They'll start adding things in now because now he has a full week, and he's being able to watch film, and he'll start to adjust. So yeah, by like third week, he should like now be like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for the whole team, the Vikings as a team, they get the win. I know you had your eyes on it and you were able to watch a little bit. I think what's your thoughts, as a former offensive player looking at the Vikings defense and what they do? They look to me like, Brian Flores is the defensive coordinator and they do just so many different things. They've got outside linebackers mugging the A gap. They've got guys lining up to pressure who end up dropping. They're just so multiple. It's got to be like there's just got to be a lot to prepare for. If you're getting ready for the Vikings defense, there's just a lot of different looks that you have to prepare for. And so what's your sort of take on that? Like you could, as a defense, like Monty Kiffin and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they really didn't do a lot of different things. They were just all so good, right? They had Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp and John Lynch and Rondé Barber. Like they were all really good. They all just did one thing. But then you can kind of like not be really good at any one thing, but be pretty good at lots of things. And I think that's what the Vikings are. So that's sort of a challenge in and of itself, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like the defense is playing pretty good. The offense is really, get back into the groove of things. I feel like coming off the bye week, the offensive side was kind of like starting a little slow. Need to get back into that groove, that little rhythm, and hopefully this kind of can spark that. And a win always feels good, so it's like you want to keep that feeling going.
Yeah. They lost 2 straight, finally got off that losing streak and get a victory. And now they have, the challenge of three road games in a row coming up at Jacksonville, at Tennessee, and then at Chicago. So we'll get to that in a minute. But going back to the Vikings defense in this game, here's another crazy stat, BMac. The Colts did not run any red zone plays. They were not in the red zone one snap in this game. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy.
Very unusual stat.
So everything was like big plays?
Well,
I mean, the touchdown they had, it was a big
it was a defensive touchdown. It was a defensive touchdown. Yeah. So they had 0 red zone snaps, 0 offensive touchdowns. They only scored on that fumble return and then 2 field goals. So here were some of the offensive stats. And when you hear these, I mean, you watch the game, so you know that it was a dominant performance by the Vikings defense. But when you hear these as a former offensive player, you're not gonna like it. They had 19 carries for 68 yards, so less than 4 yards of carries. They did not, or less than 4 yards per carry. They did not get into the red zone. They were 3 of 11 on third downs. They only ran 49 plays, so time of possession was 37 minutes for Minnesota, 23 for Indianapolis. 3 sacks allowed and only 6.6 yards per attempt. So just a really thorough domination by the Vikings defense. And you've been in that building watching games. Like when you're struggling as an offense and then the defense is playing well and then the building gets loud and you're giving up sacks and you can't run it. I mean, that's just got to feel like a snowball effect. Like you can't get out of there fast enough. You know? And I don't know how you recover from that.
It's tough, and especially then the momentum starts to change and you start to feel like the crowd and the team is starting to play well. So then you start to feel like the momentum change. You're trying to figure out what you can do to like shift the momentum.
Yeah. So Sam Darnold, I thought he had kind of an up and down game. You know, like what's that like as an offense when you're going to the sideline? Sam Darnold lost a fumble that was returned for a touchdown, and then he also threw 2 interceptions, one of them in the end zone. But then he had some pretty good throws, and he had 3 touchdown passes, and you end up winning the game. So what's going on the sidelines in a scenario like that, BMac? What are you guys saying to each other when it's so topsy-turvy like that?
It's a saying that we used to say in college called Fido, forget and drive on. Like sometimes you have to forget the negative plays and just go on to the next. You can't live in the past. So it's like, all right, we know the mistakes we made. Let's go out here and make these corrections. You know what I'm saying? So you can't live and keep harboring the mistakes you made. It's like, all right, let's go make up for it.
Yeah. Yeah, and they get shut out in the first half. They come out in the second half. They obviously play a lot better and wind up scoring a couple of touchdowns, and the defense just continues to dominate. And then, you know, the Cam Robinson story, man, going back to that. Like, the Vikings they were 5-0. Then they lose to Detroit at home. You know, and you and I talked about that game. Remember, we're like, that was – no losses are good, but that was a dogfight. I mean,
that was a dogfight. It just ran out of time.
Yeah, and so, you know, you're going to lose a game every now and then in this league. But, you know, 4 days later, they go to the Rams, and they lose in Los Angeles on a Thursday night, a game they were favored in, and then they lost their left tackle, Christian Darrisaw, for the season, right? I mean, this was a low point for them in the season. They end up trading for Cam Robinson about a week later, and they get him into camp and get him practicing, and he plays this way. It's got to be sort of, you know, you're kind of back riding a high now if you're the Vikings. So what are the keys here going into a 3-game road trip? You know, because they don't want to lose this momentum that they've just started by beating the Colts. But you know there are inherent challenges coming up, playing 3 games in a row on the road. So as a team, if you were in that locker room, what are some things you'd be talking about?
Well, one, taking it one game at a time. 2 is just knowing that they're harder wins on the road. Like those are the wins that it means a lot more being on the road because everybody's against you. So that's when you really got to stick together, know your plays, especially on the offense. You got to really focus in a lot more because the crowd noise is going to be crazy. So it's just all about focus and execution when you're on the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and limiting penalties and turnovers. Those are the big things too.
Yeah, that's right. I think the Vikings have the ability on offense to be balanced, and I don't mean balanced like if you run 60 plays, it's 30 passes and 30 runs. I mean, that is balance, but I think a better form of balance is not so much an even number of play calls run and pass, but it's more about the ability to execute no matter what the situation is. So if you need to run 4-minute offense, you're trying to nurse a lead, or you're trying to protect a lead like at the end of the game, like the Vikings were, you can run it. But if it's a 2-minute drill at the end of the first half and you need to pick up chunk plays in the passing game, you can do that too. I think that's maybe more of the type of balance that you try to strike as an offense.
Well, also if you're effective on the run and the pass, and then you open up play action. You know what I'm saying? So it makes people respect everything too. So that's really the balance, is being able to do both run and pass so then you can set up play action as well.
Yep.
So defenders really have to be able to read what's going on.
Yeah. Did you guys, like when you were playing with Moss, was there ever like we got to get the ball to him a certain number of times in the game? Or did you not think about that?
But I feel like it was more about scenarios and what like situations we were in. And Moss would come in there and kind of say like his little thing was picking peanuts. He would come in there and say like I'm picking peanuts. That means he's seen enough where he knows that throw the ball up, he can out jump the person and just throw it up to the corner and throw it up high. And he knows he can out leap the individual and come down with a touchdown.
Yeah. Because I feel like there's got to come a point in time where some teams, someone's got to come along with Jefferson and just say, all right, he's out. We're going to do something to him to where you can't even look his way and throw it to him. And I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, the other receivers are going to be open. So they
Right.
need to set their game up and now and make sure they're out open and available to receive these balls. Because if he's taking two defenders, that means somebody's going to be open.
Yep. Yeah, and I think at
So
some
they
point,
can't like guys can't sit around and rely on Justin to make all the plays. Like you're out there too, you're getting paid too, so you need to make something shake. You want to make a name for yourself too. So yeah, take something to slack off him. So because clearly they're going to all have our eyes on him. So okay, this is your opportunity. Go out here and make something happen.
Yep. And I think that's going to happen here over the next few games because it's typically like Jefferson will have 10, 11, 12 targets, and the next guy is going to have like 6 or 7. Like it's almost 2-1 a lot of times in targets. We saw a little bit of other guys stepping up. Like their backup tight end had a touchdown.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so like that was good. And then the number 2 wide receiver had a touchdown in this game. So I think we saw a little bit of that here, but still it was 9 targets for Jefferson, and the next highest was 5. But you know what? He might be so good that you can't take him out. No matter what you do, you can't take him out. He might be that good. But the one thing I loved about just looking at the box score, watching the game, they had 32 runs in this game, BMac. If you can run the ball 32 times in a game and get 4.2 yards per carry, I mean, what's that do for your offense, as an offensive lineman?
It does wonders. Like I say, running the ball also wears down the opponent that they're going against for their pass rush too. And then just running the ball runs time off the clock too. So especially if you have the lead or whatever, you want to run down the clock a little bit like they did towards the end. They put you in great position to be able to win the game.
Yeah. So one thing I was looking at was total plays in the game. It's like, it's like you got to give your defense rest and get them off the field, right? So the Vikings did that. But why does it not work the same way with the offense? Like the offense ran a lot of plays, and that's good. So I know it's not that you guys don't get tired. You guys get tired after a game, but what is it about like the offense having a lot of plays is good, but if your defense has a lot of plays, that's not good? You know what I'm saying?
Defense, like the D line, they're always running and chasing the ball, so they're running more. Like once we block that 5 yards and they get to the second level, it's like everybody's now turning, running in the same direction. We're kind of like trotting, like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's more energy I feel like being used on defense because it's like they're rushing to get to the pass, so now they have to turn around and rush to get to the ball carrier and make a tackle. So I feel like they're constantly like in high mode, like whereas once the defender gets for me, I'm blocking, and once I see him up to the second level, either past the linebacker or in the secondary, my blocking is done now at this point because everybody's now turning that direction, going up the field. So it's like I can't hold on to the guy like you let go and
Yep.
Where down that guy who I was blocking is now running to the ball, like you know what I'm saying, and I'm kind of just jogging up there. So
yeah, exactly. All right, here I got another question for you then. So last night the Vikings ran a double pass. Did you see that play? It was like a trick play on third, and it was 3rd and forever. And Darnold threw it to Jefferson, and then Jefferson threw it all the way across the field to Aaron Jones, and then Jones ran for a first down. Is there a coaching point in there for you guys as offensive linemen where it's like, this play is going to take a second to develop. Don't go downfield and look for work. Yeah,
we're aware of that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's timing. It's timing too. So like certain numbers you count, and like just like in the screen you count. You can't go downfield yet. Like there's counting there.
Okay, so in your head you're going like 1,001, 1,002, go.
I know for sure on screens on a double play like that, it's just like you probably can't really count because you don't know what could happen. So it's like you are probably paying attention, just knowing that you can't go downfield yet until you see the ball.
Yeah. And then what about like if you're playing with a quarterback who's good at scrambling? Like if you played with Lamar, Pep was good. I know Pep wasn't a running quarterback, but he could move around and scramble a little bit. Do you got to be aware of it there too? Because like he's moving around back there in the pocket, he might leave.
Yeah.
The
So
pocket.
me, I would look at the defender's eyes, like when I'm blocking, and I would see him like starting, and I'm like, okay, he must be moving around behind me. So it's like, let me just stay in front of the guy, because the defender could tell you where somebody's at. Like, they can play a trick with you, but then sometimes they see something and you can see it in their face, like, oh, he must be scrambling back there.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Interesting. All right. Well, for the Vikings up next, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they play them on Sunday. The game is down in Jacksonville, BMac. Kind of, I'm not going to say it's in your neighborhood, but it's not very far away.
In Florida.
Yeah, it's in Florida for sure. So a couple of things here on this game. Let's see. It's going to be November 7th. How's the weather down in Florida this week? What are we looking at?
Oh, is it Thursday night game?
No, it's not. It's going to be on Sunday.
You said November 7th.
Oh, sorry. That is Thursday. You're right. It's November 10th.
Okay. The weather here is still nice. Like, I'm gonna tell you the weather today here in Miami.
Yeah.
It is it's 84 degrees.
Okay. So
right now.
That's a big change from here.
So Jacksonville, matter of fact, I'm just looking, I'm gonna tell you what Jacksonville. It said Jacksonville, right?
Yep.
On Sunday, their weather is scheduled to be 55% chance of rain, high 83.
Okay.
So it's still warm there too.
Got to condition and got to be hydrated this week, man, because we're going from Minnesota.
Absolutely, start hydrating now, because you wait till you're thirsty, it's too late.
That's what they say. That's what the trainers always said. I was thinking back to Jaguars and like, what are my memories of the Jaguars? Fred Taylor come to mind. Do you remember John Henderson?
I do. He came out the same class, same year as me.
Did he?
In 2002. Yeah, he came from Tennessee, defensive tackle.
Yeah, he was good, man. He played for the Jags.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
he was like good. Almost same height as me.
Yeah, he was a big guy now. And then our guy Mike Tice, Coach.
I thought about Mike Tice when you first said it, because I know
assistant head coach. Yeah, he was down there with the Jags. 06 assistant head coach and offense. 07 to 09 assistant head coach and tight ends coach. Did you ever almost link up with him again after you left Minnesota? Because he went to Chicago as the O coordinator and offensive line coach. He was in Atlanta as the O line coach. Did you and him ever almost link up again?
No. I was in Minnesota the whole time. And
yeah, you were in Minnesota till 10.
Yeah, and then when I went to Baltimore, no, we never almost linked up. I think when I finished with the Dolphins, was he in Atlanta 2014?
Yeah.
I was thinking about it then, possibly, but then I was just like,
yeah. Because I always kind of think of like, I would have been like, BMac is one of Tice's guys, or vice versa. I always I thought you guys had a good rapport.
Yeah, we did.
You kind of embodied what he wanted in linemen, I think.
But I at that point when I left the Dolphins, I came to the Dolphins with an injury, with a torn meniscus, and I was kind of like over it. But then, all right, I came here. I didn't know I had a torn meniscus. They told me, instead of me getting surgery right away, I just played through it, and then it was like, okay, you can strengthen it or you have surgery. I said, I'll just strengthen it, and I've been doing it ever since. So I never had to have the surgery.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it hasn't really bothered me since either. I just worked on just strengthening the area around it and everything.
And that's a big deal for you because you're playing tennis and stuff. I mean,
yeah, no, I don't have any issues out of it.
Wow.
While I was playing, because it was a lot of wear and tear and stopping and grinding on, so I did. But once I retired, and I just started doing exercises to strengthen everything around that knee and everything. It just hasn't bothered me since. So
that's good.
Yeah. So I felt like during that period of time, I was like, I might as well just go ahead and just hang it up and just be okay, because there's no need to keep getting these injuries. I don't see myself going to another Super Bowl. as long as it took for me to get to the one I got to. So
yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, looking at your career, you had a long career. You surpassed expectations even as a first-round pick. Left a really good legacy in Minnesota, won a Super Bowl, made a lot of money, right? I mean, you had a good go in your career, and you got to the mountaintop, man. I mean,
right.
And that's
So that's
crazy.
why I was saying, like, what else am I doing?
I know. You're making a few bucks, right? And you don't want to leave anything out there. You maxed it out. That's just the crazy thing about Flacco, isn't it? That he's still starting and playing.
And he's coming in. I feel like he's being a difference maker because he's able to make good decisions for the most part. And teams are still getting him because he's ends up starting.
That's crazy. I mean, it's
and
a hard position.
The, younger guys, what it's like to be a pro, and they can learn from him too. So that is beneficial.
Yeah, for sure. All right. On a personal level, I wanted to tell you this story too. So, my son is 9 years old, and he had a basketball tournament, and he plays on a team with a youngster who is Marcus Sherrills' nephew. Do you remember Marcus?
Yeah.
So Marcus came and watched yesterday, this basketball tournament, and so he and I were chatting and talking about you. I said, "Yeah, I do a show once a week with BMac," and he's like, "Oh my gosh, tell him I said hi." He said that you guys see each other like once a year at a conference or something.
It's a charity event in Rochester,
Minnesota.
Yeah, and we normally see each other every year there. It's called Boulder Options.
Okay, yeah, that's what he was talking about, and he's from Rochester, which I'm sure you know.
Oh, so then that's why he's there every year.
Yeah, that's why he's there.
I didn't know he's from Rochester. Okay,
that's where he went to high school. He lives now up here in the cities, but he went to school there, and he's got a brother named Mike Sherrills, who was super involved with the Minnesota Gophers football program, and Mike Sherrills' son is the one who's teammates with my son, but Marcus is the uncle he came and watched. He's big into pickleball. Did you know that? I know you're a tennis guy. That. Yeah, he's a big pickleball guy up here.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that's something that you guys can talk about. When is that usually, that event you go to?
The tennis?
No, the one with Marcus.
Pickleball. I don't know. It should be coming up soon because
in Rochester? Yeah.
Oh, the event in Rochester is normally in August, but they didn't have it. They didn't do it this year, but they've done it the past like 4 or 5 years. We didn't have it this year, so they'll probably bring it back next year.
Okay, yeah. Because he was a rookie year last year here. So you guys crossed paths for one season. He ended up being like the best punt returner in Vikings history in his career. Yeah. He was super sure-handed. He wasn't, and he would take one to the house every now and then. He was, I'm not going to call him Devin Hester, and what your guy Devin Hester, but I mean, he was a sure-handed, and then he was also an awesome gunner on special teams, which is a valuable role for a football team. But anyway, I got to catch up with him, and I said, BMac's got all sorts of awesome guests all the time that we get to have. Like we had Edgerrin James last week, and he's like, "Wow, that's awesome." But I'm like, "We'd love to have you on." So we'll probably have Marcus on. Yeah, we'll, talk football with him one of these days. But all right. So what do you got cooking this week? I know you're always flying around doing everything.
Yes, this week I'm back on the road again, ladies and gentlemen. I head to on the 8th, Friday the 8th, November 8th. I head to the Bahamas, Nassau, Bahamas, staying at the Atlantis for Canes Fest. So it was me, Frank Gore, a basketball player named Jack McClinton, and Lamar Miller. We are the Hurricanes who are going to be hosting a watch party as the Miami Hurricanes take on Georgia Tech this Saturday. So the Bahamas is a big sponsor to the University of Miami, and they have invited me back, and I've recruited other guys to attend this year. And we're going out to the Bahamas from the 8th to the 11th, and I come back on the 11th. And then I traveled on the 13th to Atlanta because I have to do 2 events with Comcast on the 14th and 15th. Okay. Then I'm going to stay the weekend because then I have another meeting in Atlanta on the 18th and 19th. And I'll be back on the 20th.
Okay. So you'll be
next week. I'll be in Atlanta when we do the show.
When we record on Monday after we beat the Jags, you'll be live from Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You're busy, man. You got a busy calendar. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, travel safe. I'm sure we'll be communicating between now and then. And the Canes have who?
Who do the Canes have this week?
I think it's not Duke. Didn't they just beat
Duke? Georgia Tech. Yeah, I just said it. That's why I go to the Bahamas. Okay. Georgia Tech, yeah.
They're number 4 in the country.
And we just beat Duke, which was Manny Diaz. He's the head coach there. So he was the former head coach here.
Yeah.
And I know he was so excited because at halftime they were winning by like 4 points. But we came back and we blew them out by like 3 touchdowns.
Now the Canes have been doing that a little bit here this season. That's kind of their signature, isn't it?
Second half is kind of like their thing.
I mean, they were down big at Cal.
Oh yeah, that game I left out my hotel and I thought like it was over.
Yeah,
they were down a lot. And
yeah.
And I just checked the score like when I was like, let me just see what the score was. And I seen it won by 1 point. I'm like, what?
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully they can keep it up. Can't take your foot off the gas against anyone, even Georgia Tech.
And everybody's going to give you their best shot, especially because you're undefeated.
That's right. All right, man. Well, we will talk on air on Monday, but we'll communicate between now and then, of course, and figure out a plan. But travel safely and have a lot of fun wherever you go. All right.
All right. Thanks.
All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Bleav in Vikings, everyone. BMac and I thank you, as always, for listening. Make sure you download, like, follow, and subscribe to Bleav in Vikings. We are on all the major podcasting platforms. We're also on YouTube, so go there and check us out. Once you do, we'll see you there. That's it for today, everyone. Until next time, keep believing.